All right. Welcome back, everybody, to a Cellar podcast. Got Christian and I here, along with Mikey and McCready. We figured it'd be a good idea to go through and just talk about some of the movies that we saw in 2021, kind of like a year in recap. Obviously, we didn't see all the movies in 2021, but we're going to run through some of our favorites and some of our least favorites here.
We saw a lot considering the pandemic and a lot of showings. We were like the only two where Kyle went to a lot of them, and the twins and some of our other friends, and it was sometimes just us, so it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, but we've got a decent list here anyway.
Yeah,
we can spend some time talking about. First one is Nobody. Nobody was a film featuring Bob Odenkirk, right?
Yep.
This is going back to the beginning of the year. Just pulling it up on Letterboxd here. So this is stretched. Now we actually saw this movie with Dave. I don't know. I didn't really know what to expect with this one going into it. It was kind of like a John Wick type deal.
Yes.
It was fine.
I enjoyed the hell out of it. It was like I really didn't know what to expect either. And so I was just like pleasantly surprised because this movie just had so many like what the fuck over the top moments that were just crazy. Like that entire bus scene was like it's nuts.
Oh yeah, I have marked down here. Christopher Lloyd stole the show, and it's not even close.
Oh yeah, I mean he was great to see. Like again, another unexpected surprise having him in the movie playing his old freaking war veteran, war term, whatever you want to call him, just not like he was kind of talented from the beginning.
Well, that's the thing. They never really explain what agency they're from, I don't think.
No, they don't. You just kind of assume it's like, I don't know, something even above CIA level. Just his training, and it was I like I said, I didn't even know much about the movie. I think I saw like one trailer maybe, so I kind of knew sort of what it was gonna be like. I kind of just thought it was a typical revenge movie, but man, like it was just way more than that, and I enjoyed it so much. I mean, I love that genre. Very like hardcore, like action, vulgarity, blood, just brutality.
Not my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, you enjoy the brutality aspect, though, I'm sure.
Yeah, but a lot of those action movies feel kind of hollow to me. Mm-hmm. They a lot of times they feel like action for action's sake rather than progressing a story or characters or anything. I mean, there are a few exceptions like John Wick. I mean, John Wick is a real great character story. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, this one was fine. It was fine. That's about all I can say.
Yeah, like I said, I really liked it. I think it was just because it was so unexpectedly good and kind of right up my alley. But yeah, I thought it was solid. I remember telling like everyone in my family they should go see it. I mean, I clearly enjoyed it more than you did. I thought you kind of liked it more, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it was entertaining. I'm not gonna lie.
Definitely worth the movie going experience for sure.
Well, I'd argue that it's worth that every time. Mm-hmm. Next up that we saw together, The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It. This one was kind of weird for me because it wasn't really like the other Conjuring movies. It felt a lot more over the top. Whereas the first one I think is incredible. The second one is good, but both of them I think are really rooted in, I guess, like supernatural horror. I mean, this one is too, but this one felt like wacky.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it definitely didn't have the same feel as the first two did. It sort of just was a, generic like haunting story. I love Ed and Lorraine Warren. I think, Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson.
Yep.
They have such a great chemistry. So
they really do.
It's always great to see them together. I wish they kind of had more movies together, maybe outside the horror genre, because that'd be very interesting to see. Because you just see that with some actors and actresses, they just have like just such great chemistry. So they obviously with definitely the highlight of the film. It really, it's like I kind of forget a lot about the movie. One, it was so
I
long
really
ago.
do.
Kind
Yeah.
of, like I think that kind of is a detriment of the film. Like it's just not, if a film doesn't stick with you or it's not memorable, probably wasn't that great. I don't think it was terrible. Like there was, as you know, so many other shitty horror haunting movies we've seen, of recent era
Oh
that
yeah, we'll talk about one of those too. We're
that have
getting there.
that have been complete misses. This had some good moments, a few good.
It did. It did. I mean, like you said, the chemistry between Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga is exceptional.
Mhm.
I mean, that's always been a high point of the Conjuring movies.
Yeah,
But otherwise, it was just like the horror. I think it was okay. It fell flat in some spots. Like the whole exorcism idea is
bit out there.
not even out there, maybe overdone a little bit. But then again, almost every idea in horror is overdone. It's just how you can execute it.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was kind of cool to show that, like, I kind of appreciated the twist they kind of took, and different approach, and sort of not really, it wasn't really a generic haunting. Like, I'm kind of backtracking now, whereas it was kind of like they were purposely cursed. So that was kind of, like
Hmm.
that I kind of appreciated. They kind of try to go a different route than just
Yeah,
a
a bit different.
did it work? I don't really know. Like, I think it was like okay, like I said. We usually rate out of 5 stars on Letterboxd. So I have to give it out of 10. I'd say like maybe a 6, 6.5, which is like very decent in my scale.
I've got this one at 2.5 out of 5.
Yeah,
I've got my letterbox pulled up to
that's
my right over here.
a 5.5, I'd say. If I
Yeah.
out of 10. But yeah, I mean, just one-time watch. Like, I don't think it's a movie I'll go back to like the other two. I'll definitely rewatch.
Oh, I'd go back to the first two, no problem. Especially the first one was so
Yeah,
good.
the first one was great. The second one had some great moments. But yeah, the first one was, very iconic in that genre. But it was a decent, I guess, ending to this trilogy. Not completely terrible, wasn't a complete mess, but still enjoyable.
Yeah. Next one I've got up on the list is Black Widow, and we don't have to beat this one to death again because we've talked about it so many times. But you can give a quick run through.
Yeah, I mean, like I've said in the past here, we've talked about this movie before. Just felt it was very, very underwhelming. It was very, disappointing because, as we said, it's a movie that was like 10 years too late, right? So it was sort of made for all the wrong reasons. It was Marvel Studios making it because they saw the success of Wonder Woman in DC and how much money that made and how that progressed. And they've heard flack for years from Marvel fans saying, "Why the hell haven't you given us a Black Widow movie? Why haven't you given us a Black Widow movie? Where the
Right.
hell is the Black Widow movie?" So they give it to us. And when you think of it, it's just it was such a weird timed movie in terms of where that movie took place in the MCU, like right after Civil War. Because
Yeah, with almost no mention of it
right. And
whatsoever.
it's just, there was a lot of plot holes it created. Like, I liked her family dynamic.
But it was so underutilized, and when it was utilized, it was misused.
It was, yeah, and she, like, I just don't even think was fully utilized in a freaking Black Widow standalone movie. Like, I felt like we didn't get enough Black Widow. That was like the first thing I told you, and I know you agree with me on that. But yeah, like, I loved Yelena. Like, the introduction of her was cool. Like, I still have yet to watch Hawkeye. Like, I'm gonna get to that, but I know she, how this movie ends with the end credit kind of leads into Hawkeye. So, it's something to kind of build off of. So it wasn't a complete like waste of time, but it really didn't add much to the MCU, which I think a lot of the other films are built, have this thing like we've talked about before, building towards something. And it was like very odd because we all know what happens with Black Widow. Like, she's dead. Like, she's dead in the current timeline. So it's like, yeah, this is like a side story. It literally
It never really had, I think, the intention of amounting to anything because it can't. Like you said, Black Widow's dead.
right.
That's great that she did this thing in between Civil War and Infinity War. But the thing is, we saw her in Civil War, we saw her in Infinity War. So what she did in between really makes no difference because they didn't reference it in Infinity War or Endgame, and they couldn't because this movie hadn't come out yet. So this story didn't exist yet.
Right.
It was really like an inconsequential movie.
Yeah. And the more I think of it, like I think this movie would have been a very good like what if episode. That's what it sort of
It could have been, honestly.
there's such a disconnect from the rest of the MCU and just kind of just forced in between movies that have already come out and we already know where everything stands and what's going to happen and you just like I don't know, it just takes away from I guess the unknown and the experience because you know how our story ends, so it's like do we need this kind of unnecessary side story that like I keep saying like just did not add to anything with the MCU? I don't think so.
I mean, I think your question is very valuable in that did we need a Black Widow movie? Yes. Did we need this Black Widow movie? No.
And something else like how they just completely wasted Taskmaster.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing that
we talked about that, but it's just like you have such a great villain. You build up with the trailers how badass this villain looks, and you and I both were like so pumped to see Taskmaster. And then it was like not even Taskmaster; it was fake Taskmaster. That's what I refer to it as.
Yeah. I mean, while we're on the topic of Marvel, I guess we could just shoehorn in Shang-Chi.
Again, I mean, there's not much.
Great.
But we've already, people watching this know our thoughts on these two movies. Definitely, I think the first half of Shang-Chi was way better than the second half.
Oh yeah.
Kind of focused on him and his character, and sort of, he obviously knows who he is, and you find out who he is, and there's a lot of great action, and it had so much potential in the beginning, and just kind of fell flat in its face. Really, the last like 30 minutes of the movie.
Last 30, I'd say last hour.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying with his like. Again, as we've discussed.
I love my dad. I hate my dad. I love my dad. Oh no, my dad's dead.
Fight with his father and just forgiving his dad. And it's just, like I said before, this movie felt like everyone in the writer's room, they all got their ideas in the movie. And they just figured out how to throw it. There was just no cohesiveness. There was no, discussion. There was really not a great brainstorming session of coming up with a concrete plot and good story and narrative. Again, like I'll say again, to build towards something. I mean, did you feel like this movie builds towards anything with the MCU? Like, are you pumped to see the next chapter of Shang-Chi, or could you really?
With the exception of the end credit scene, I don't think Shang-Chi was aiming to build towards anything except Shang-Chi 2.
Again, as we talked about, it's like this is one of those movies, I guess, similar to the Eternals, that seems to be like branching off from the MCU and the main storyline. It's like it seems like they're trying, with Spider-Man kind of keeping on track with the main storyline, the main branch as we talked about. But now it's like all these other movies are coming out and creating their separate branches and kind of just going off in tangents on their own path.
Yeah.
So,
but I'll if for some reason you haven't seen the Marvel episodes we've done, I'll link those too so you can get more in depth on Black Widow and Shang-Chi.
Mm-hmm.
So we can move away from those ones for now. Go on to the next one, which I have is Old, the M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Yep.
That we saw over the summer with Aiden, actually, who should be watching this right now. Aiden,
Eddie, better be watching.
This one I thought was really cool. I think I saw like one trailer for this one, and I was instantly in. I said, I'm going to see that movie, no doubt. The concept was cool.
I can't believe you only saw one trailer because I saw so many building up to this movie.
Well, I saw one and then I avoided the rest because I didn't want to. I mean, you know me, I don't like to watch too many trailers, but the concept was very simple but effective. I will say I have not read the graphic novel this is adapted from, but I think that they handled the aging in a very interesting manner. How everyone that was getting older so rapidly they were having the health problems creep up on them faster and faster. I thought that was it was a real cool concept to look at. Overall, I think the movie ended up being not quite like experimental, but just a bit odd in terms of presenting the story. Like there are some really cool camera shots of like a quarter of a guy's face, like maybe this much.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was a stylistic choice to like prevent them from seeing them like not getting old by the second, or if it was just to provide some sort of like uncertainty or uncomfort or discomfort in the viewer. Either way, I thought it was a very interesting movie, let's say, to watch. The whole part about the girl getting pregnant while she's like technically 6 years old, but like on the beach she's like 22. It's very odd.
Yeah.
Very unsettling.
The concept of time in this movie you can't really think too much about because you'll just get a headache.
Well, it's not even really like time so much as it is aging. Yeah. Because like the beach itself doesn't age as if it were like deteriorating with the earth. Mm-hmm. It's just the people that go there that age faster due to like, I don't know, magnetism or something. Mm-hmm. And then, you get the classic M. Night Shyamalan twist at the end, or like, oh, it was Big Pharma the entire time. Which honestly, I think that twist of like, the big science people were using the beach as a way to rapidly test their drugs. It was like, oh, yeah, that's kind of cool. It's not cool that they did it, but it's cool that
it somewhat makes sense why that's happening.
Yeah, and then the guy, who runs the place after they were exposed, they're like, dude, you're literally halting scientific process for hundreds of years. And they're like, yeah, I don't care. You took away 40 years of my life. A little bit of a character conflict for the audience to dig into, but I thought it was a pretty cool movie. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, I did too. I was just looking at my letterbox. I gave it 3.5 out of 5. So yeah, I liked it. I mean, I really like M. Night Shyamalan. I've seen mostly all of his films. I just love his style, and like you were talking about the uneasiness of some of the shots in his movies. I mean, I think like you were saying, I think it's both kinds of set that tone of like uneasiness, but also so you're kind of trying to imagine how they're aging without seeing it. So, he definitely has a knack for that and knowing what shots work and what don't. But I enjoy this movie. I mean, it definitely wasn't, one of his top ones, but definitely very unique, of course, which I love. It's just tough to find nowadays in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Pretty unique ideas.
I have on Letterboxd right here. The first line of my review is, the only thing scarier than uncertainty is inevitability. Mm-hmm. Which was like, there was a point in the middle of this movie where I think somebody died or somebody, got a disease because they were getting older. And like, it's just like, oh my God, like none of these people are going to make it. We're literally just waiting for them to die. And it was awful. It was just an awful feeling to have during that movie. But I mean, it was very effective in making the audience uncomfortable. Wow. So I think that movie gets 2 thumbs up. The next one we got here is The Suicide Squad, which is one that I know both of us really enjoy. At the time of this recording, Peacemaker has started on HBO, but I have not caught any of it yet. This movie is basically, for lack of a better term, it is DC's Guardians of the Galaxy. Yep. Most of that has to do with James Gunn at the helm, which, I mean, I don't think there's anyone better for the job, really. I mean, he's proven on a few occasions that he knows how to handle a big superhero team-up movie, or I guess in this supervillain team-up movie. But I think the cast of characters he throws together is just exceptional. Like every single one builds off of another. Yep. And the hard R rating in this is just an absolute blessing on the comic book genre. Yeah. Because you can't have something like the Suicide Squad without hard R. I mean, just for violence alone.
That's how it starts off too with the beach scene. You're like, you know exactly what type of movie you're gonna get.
You know that every single one of those people are gonna die on that beach because that's what the Suicide Squad does.
You're not afraid to show you exactly how.
No. And I was a little upset that Captain Boomerang got offed right at the beginning. But I mean, like I said to one of our buddies, Kevin, a few days ago, like that's how they show stakes in that movie. You take a character from the other Suicide Squad movie and you say, yep, he's going to die right away. Just be like, oh yeah, okay, so anyone can die. And the same thing holds for later in the movie when Rick Flag bites the dust because of Peacemaker, and that shot of like Peacemaker, I think it's like a piece of glass or something, and you can see it go into Rick Flag's chest and puncture his heart.
I mean, I took it as that, what you just said, but also like, not that it was James Gunn giving the middle finger to the other Suicide Squad, but he's kind of just like, yeah, this is my movie. Like, this is how I see the Suicide Squad. This is what I'm doing. So, Captain Boomerang was a great character in the other one, but I think James Gunn clearly had a different and better vision of what the Suicide Squad was, even though a lot of the characters are sort of similar based around the characters from the original one.
Yeah, but I mean, you have to also remember that 2016 Suicide Squad got the classic Warner Brothers treatment.
Yeah.
That underwent countless script rewrites, reshoots, Warner Brothers sticking their fingers in David Ayer's script and saying, we don't like this, make it funny like Deadpool. And
that's true.
So, I mean, I understand that it's hard not to compare the two together, but I try not to, because I know they're two very different visions, and the 2016 movie we got was not what David Ayer wanted to put out to the world.
No.
But I mean, in this one, I think the team was just better assembled anyway. I mean, King Shark, Sylvester Stallone was incredible. Peacemaker obviously is great. He has his own show. Idris Elba filled the role of Bloodsport that I did not expect him to be that good or that funny as that character. Margot Robbie returns as Harley Quinn. I mean, she's incredible as always. It was a great cast.
You're forgetting my favorite guy, Polka Dot Man. He was fantastic too.
Yeah, he was good. I always butcher his last name, so I'm not going to attempt to say it.
I just recognize him as that freaky looking guy from Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah. He's been in a few other superhero pieces as well. I think he was in the Flash TV show as one of the villains. I've stopped watching that show, but he was there for a little while. And the fact that Warner Brothers and audiences have such faith in James Gunn to just let him do Starro the Conqueror, it's incredible. Like a massive giant space starfish.
You didn't know that was a villain going into it, right?
I think there were speculations on it, but I don't remember if it was official or not.
I remember at the reveal of it, you lost your shit. I think the best part of this of Suicide Squad is definitely redeemed itself from the 2016 one, my opinion.
Yes, again, definitely.
After there was like a sequel or was made for the sole purpose of being a better Suicide Squad. That was part of it, but it just it was kind of a breath of fresh air that sort of wasn't completely butchered.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that they did it, and I'm glad that James Gunn was able to do it. You have to consider that if he wasn't fired by Disney in like 2018-ish, then this movie never would have happened, because he would have been under Actually, that would have changed the whole slate of Marvel too, because Guardians of the Galaxy 3 would be a lot earlier than it is, but that can be a conversation for another time. The next one we got is Candyman, which again was fine.
Really?
Yeah, it was fine.
Because I thought you liked it better than the original.
Well, yeah, I mean, I thought it was a little bit more, I'm not going to say it was a better movie than the original, but I think it had a little bit more like background substance to it. Whereas the original was just kind of like, I forget her name, but she was, reporting on Cabrini Green. Yeah, she was reporting on Cabrini Green, whereas this one was more of like urban legend behind Candyman, Cabrini Green, and certain like racial inequalities in the city in that area, and the distinctions between the kind of people that live in Cabrini Green, the people that live around it, and the people that live like way far away from it.
I really like that. I thought I loved the aspect of some of the kill shots in the movie.
Oh, those were fantastic. And the special effects were awesome too. Like the way that the Candyman was portrayed, like in the mirror shots with Yahya Abdul-Mateen, who I think like was just so good. He's such a good actor.
Yeah. No, it was cool to kind of see the multiple different backgrounds of different Candymen like over the years, where the original sort of just focused on one of the legends. It was kind of like, this whole idea of like a hive of Candyman, like it's not just one being. And like I said, just the kills, like the first kill in that like art exhibit was like fantastic. I was like honestly losing my shit because it was just so well done. Um, you know, I think some of the I completely understand the point and the reasoning behind some of the social meanings in it, but I thought it kind of got a bit overdone and kind of lost focus of what the movie was at towards the end and kind of how it ended. I was like, like how that guy kind of planned it and wasn't a fan of that. But
Yeah, that's one thing I didn't really care for too much because I think that took away a little bit from the slasher aspect of it. But yeah, I agree. Continue, please.
I wish Tony Todd was in more than just like the one like 30-second shot of him at the end.
Oh, not even. It was like
Yeah.
3 seconds. What did he say? He said, "Tell everyone," I think, and then the movie ended.
And I'm like, really? Like, why didn't we get him like more of him? Because he is the original Candyman.
Well, yeah, but you explained it. You just explained it yourself. There's a whole hive of Candymen,
Right.
of Candyman beings.
They showed everyone but him. So
yeah,
that was my point. I was like, damn, like I wish because I'm pretty sure is the original one. But yeah, wish they showed more of him. Wish he kind of played a bigger role in it. But it was like I said, for what it was, like I guess a slasher horror movie. I think it was very well done.
Yeah. Yeah, Abdul Mateen is just like, oh my god, he is incredible in everything he did.
He's very good in this movie,
especially the show Watchmen on HBO. Like, go catch that if you haven't seen it because he's incredible.
Yeah.
Next up, Malignant.
Dog shit.
I don't really even want to talk about this one, honestly. It's just I had such high hopes for it because of James Wan. And like the concept was fine enough, but then you get to towards the end where you find out who the killer is. And then they lay it out for you and you're like, oh, that's it? Really?
It was just, it's kind of like right in your face the whole time, but I kind of liked at the beginning it was like more of like a ghost kind of paranormal-esque feel to it.
Which is what we all know James Wan is great at doing.
Yeah. And just kind of like that psychological like fear that he's excellent in creating in his movies. And then it just like took a turn like a fucking Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type of deal to it with like the same person. Like he's like a ninja stealth expert killer and like he takes out a whole fucking police station with I'm just like I can kind of buy like the behind the back or sneak up kills, but when one person like takes out a whole police station with cops with shotguns and guns and rifles and assault rifles,
yeah, no, it got really excessive towards the end.
Really lost.
And it like kind of like
that was one of the few times. A lot of times I drive myself or before you got a car, I drove you a lot, but the past year or two we've like all been meeting at the movies. That was one of the few times we went together. And I remember on the way home I said to you and Kyle, I go, if I drove myself I literally would have walked out of that movie. Like,
yeah, it wasn't very good. I didn't like it. I will say though, the design of Gabriel, like when he's walking around as Gabriel,
yeah,
the actress was Marina Mazeppa, who's actually, I find out now, is in a movie that we're going to talk about in a minute. I believe, if I remember correctly, she's a contortionist, so she was able to do all those like weird movements that Gabriel has herself. So that was all practical effects, and that's cool because I love practical effects. I do. The background you have now is, the juggernaut of practical effects.
Yep.
But yeah, I think the downfall of it, like you said, was the shift in tone between the first and the second halves. And for me, the kind of cliches of like, oh, it was her brother. Like, we've all seen Halloween 2. Like, we all know what happens when they create siblings. It usually just doesn't work. And I don't think it did in this one either.
Yeah, it was just, again, let down because I was not expecting that type of movie. I thought it was just, a kind of haunting James
I did
Wan.
too. All the trailers made it seem like a regular paranormal type movie.
Right. That's why I was so caught off guard. It was, expecting something completely different. And like I said, I can't even count them on my hand. There's not a lot of movies I've gone and seen that I want to walk out of the theater. And that was definitely one of them.
Yeah, it wasn't my favorite. Next one. Last Night in Soho. Phenomenal movie.
Yeah.
It was just so good. I mean, Edgar Wright, we all know from Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, Baby Driver. It's really hard, and I don't think he ever has, but it's really hard for Edgar Wright to make a bad movie.
Yeah.
And this one was just incredible. Like, I'm a big fan of Anya Taylor-Joy. I'm a big fan of Thomas and Mackenzie, and they played off of each other perfectly. It was just so good. And I mean, I know now because I've heard podcasts and interviews with Edgar Wright talking about the influence that horror movies have had on him. But towards the end of this movie, like, it was getting like real horror movie.
Yeah.
I mean, when the ghosts were reaching up from the floor and trying to grab her, like that was genuinely freaky.
Yeah. And from I've seen what's it called? I haven't seen all of his films. I've seen a couple of them, but yeah, like Shaun of the Dead, but like he's never really tackled like horror, it seems like. And
I don't think he has. No, I mean,
this really, like I said, it wasn't horror, but like you said, like the last 30 minutes were like unbelievable, like cinema, like horror, like uneasiness, like
oh yeah,
suspense.
100%.
Just the suspense level throughout this whole movie was like crazy. And
yeah,
it was such a great, unique story. The dichotomy of, like we were saying, Anya Taylor-Joy's character, and the other one, I always forget her name. You just said it. It was so great to see. One thing about this movie is like I didn't like the reveal at the end of how that old lady was her, like the whole time. Like again, it made sense, but I was kind of like,
yeah, she was
it sort of felt kind of like a cop out.
What was her name?
Sandy something, right?
Sandy. Thank you. That's right.
But
I understand. I really liked the reveal because in classic Edgar Wright fashion, if you were paying attention like very, very closely, when Thomas and Mackenzie Ellie is going through the mail from her landlady, you can see that the mail is addressed to Sandy. Once I saw that, and this is like a solid 2 minutes before it's like really revealed. Once I saw that, I was like, oh my God, that's Anya Taylor-Joy, but older. And like instantly, all of the pieces of the movie fell into place. And that's exactly what Edgar Wright is just fantastic at doing. His script writing ability, his directorial ability is almost unmatched in modern cinema. He's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, definitely one of my favorite movies that I saw this year. I mean, I really, really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, that's up there for me. Actually, on Letterboxd, that was a solid 5 stars for me.
Yep.
Next one is one that we've talked about again in depth, so we don't have to go too far. Halloween Kills. Got my man right here. Absolutely loved this movie. I thought it was so brutal. It was so bloody. I know a lot of people didn't like it. I know that there are a lot of issues with like the storytelling and the pacing of this movie, character development. But I think it's one of those movies that'll get better with time. I think it's one of those movies that'll get better when the entire trilogy is out.
Yep.
And that's something that we might just have to wait and see. But I loved it. You can check out our Halloween special podcast episode.
Yeah, I enjoyed this movie a lot. I get I understand the gripes. I do, with like you were saying, the pacing and kind of a slight disconnect from the previous movie.
I mean, those aren't my gripes. Those are just gripes that I've heard from other people.
Right, but it was kind of refreshing to see, like you keep saying, this pissed off Michael Myers. So just no fucks given, just fucking tearing through Haddonfield. The second time, Laurie's gotten the better of him. He just doesn't care, and it was just very well done. And even like I said in our review of the movie, this version of Michael Myers is not my favorite, and it's not how I envision him or what the first thing I think of. When you think of Michael Myers, you don't think sheer brutality, right? Like that's kind of Jason Voorhees.
Of course.
Always been. But it was cool to see something kind of different, because the only other movie where they portray Michael as just brutal was Rob Zombie's Halloween.
Right, which is a totally separate timeline.
Right.
It's not canonical anymore.
You know me, like I was jumping on my seat when they did the flashback scene.
Yeah, I was just going to mention those. The flashbacks are something that I think were handled so perfectly. Mm-hmm. And my favorite detail about them, I can't remember if I mentioned this in the Halloween podcast, but my favorite detail was that when they were doing the flashbacks, the film was just ever so slightly grainy to make it feel like you were
definitely were using
seeing it being filmed.
Older lenses for sure, which just added that like special touch.
Yeah, I don't know if it was that or if it was like post camera effects, but either way, I mean that detail is something that is so easily overlooked by the general populace, but to someone like you and I mean that's I think what made the flashbacks for me.
Yeah, I love that. It just, and the attention to detail for recreating the Myers house.
Yeah, but slightly modern, updated with Big John, Little John, who were great, by the way. They were fantastic. They had to die, but they were fantastic.
One of those movies who crossed paths with Mikey, they didn't make it to the end.
No, they didn't. Rest in peace, Judy Greer.
Yeah.
Next up is Venom, Let There Be Carnage.
Surprisingly, like I said, I enjoyed this movie. And I am in the vast minority with that take, because it just, a lot of people hated this movie or just really didn't like it. But I mean, I don't know, at this point it's like we kind of know. I'm not, this kind of sounds douchey, but I don't really take like Venom's storyline too serious. Like I don't think, even though this movie, I'm gonna preface this with quoting, attempted to tie it into the MCU with Tom Holland, but clearly never really paid off to amount to anything.
Well, not yet.
Not yet. But I'm with Tom Hardy. I kind of just accepted Venom's storyline, what Venom is. Kind of I don't know, I kind of like Eddie Brock's character. Tom Hardy portrays him like perfectly, and just the back and forth with him and Venom and fighting with one another. It's just funny to me. I get a lot of this movie, like the fight scenes and his issue and battle with Carnage definitely felt like forced and could have been utilized better in different ways. But I just like enjoyed it, because I remember I didn't really care too much for the first Venom. So I think I just really set my expectations very low for this. Like I wasn't expecting much. So, as Zendaya kept saying, expect to be disappointed or expect nothing and you'll never
expect disappointment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, the script for this movie was abysmal. I mean, like it was just, it was like the writer's room got together.
I can't argue with that. That it was definitely.
Well, yeah, they got together and they said, how can we make this movie feel epic? But it's like the fourth grader definition of epic, which in the real world just translates to cringy as hell.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Woody Harrelson as Cletus Cassidy was good. I enjoyed that. Although, he just like was so underutilized in a movie that literally had his name in the title.
Yeah.
The prison breakout scene was cool, where he was killing all the guards, because like that's what Carnage does. Like he has no regard for any life. I mean, he's legitimately a serial killer inside of an alien body that allows him to kill more people. I mean, Cletus was good. Carnage was cool. The fights got better than the first one. You could actually kind of tell what was going on, but the script, the story, it was just not there for me. The attempted connection at the MCU at the end was like, all right, that's fine. But how extended are we turning this Marvel universe? But we'll talk about that in a minute with the inevitable Spider-Man coming up. After Venom 2, I actually wanted to chunk this in with Black Widow and Shang-Chi, but I, like half the population, forgot about this movie, The Eternals. It was fine. That's like 2021 in a nutshell for me. It was fine.
Yeah, doesn't seem like there are too many bad movies you've seen. But yeah, again, go back to our other videos to, for further
Yeah, I'll link all those up. Just quick positives of that movie: Chloe Zhao directing, the cinematography, the character interactions, character costumes, like the Eternal suits, very nice.
Like a lot of Marvel movies, it's a very pretty movie.
Yeah, but I mean, the bad isn't even that bad. It's just like the story was meh. I appreciate Marvel going in new directions, but at the same time, it's like without a clear directive at the end to how it's going to set up towards other things. It's like, okay. I did really like Kit Harington as Dane Whitman, the Black Knight. I did find out after the fact that the voice you hear in the end credit scene was not Sam Jackson's Nick Fury, but Mahershala Ali's Blade. So if that means that Dane Whitman is going to be in the Blade movie, I am all for it. I am so excited for that movie because Mahershala Ali is probably one of the best working actors today. But yeah, it's just, this movie's fine. Like I don't ever plan on watching it again anytime soon.
Yeah, no, me neither. I mean, I was I again expected this movie to be like bad, but it definitely wasn't bad. It was enjoyable. It kept me engaged throughout. So that's the least you can ask of a movie, especially when you go to the theaters. But yeah, I can't keep stressing enough. It's just this, like, I don't think this movie added much to the MCU. Yes, there are, definitely some new movies that are coming up that it could sort of somewhat build towards, but I don't think they have great relevance to what, they have, Marvel and Disney has plans for with the current, big long-term direction of the MCU. I think it's sort of building towards a lot of the TV shows and maybe other movies down the line, like, Blade, sort of, but I don't really think this movie introduced Blade. It does kind of connect to it, sure, but I think it was just a decent kind of side piece movie.
Yeah, no, that's a good way of putting it. It just felt like a side story. Coming up to the last couple of movies that we've seen together. Obviously, you and I have seen other movies separately that we won't talk about too much, but the next one, Resident Evil: Welcome to Raccoon City.
A movie that just got, in my opinion, completely butchered critically.
Dude, it came out on a Wednesday. Like,
yeah,
what else do you expect?
People just shit on this movie. I had a fun time. I thought it was cool to see, the original, characters from Resident Evil 1 and 2. And I know you've been blasting through them. I mean, I've played, a few of them, mostly, halfway through the first one. But I think it was cool to see. Like, I think they did the original 2 game characters pretty well.
More or less, yeah. They obviously took.
Claire.
At this time now, the recording, I've played 1, 2, 3, and a little bit of 0. But I mean, they took a few creative liberties with storytelling and like Albert Wesker and all that. But for the most part, like they kept it pretty solid. I mean, you have Chris, Jill, Claire, and Leon, and they're all, working through their respective stories in their games, going through the Spencer Mansion or RPD, and you even get like a little bit of Lisa Trevor, even though they, again, creative liberty, they change her up a little bit. Lisa Trevor, actually, I found out, was the same actress that played Gabriel in Malignant. So that's cool. So yeah, like obviously Lisa Trevor wasn't in the orphanage in the first game. She was underneath the mansion. But you do get to go to the orphanage from the second game. In the movie. You have Chief Irons, you have my man Billy Birkin, have his daughter, what's her name? Susie, something like that. And then his wife Annette. So like as you play the games and watch the movie, you see that they're pulling more and more, and you get that tease of Ada Wong at the end, who's such a cool character in the second game. I think this movie, it was just so much fun to watch.
Yeah.
It was so cool. And like it was kind of scary too. Like when they got to the Spencer mansion
Yeah.
and they're fighting off all the zombies. Like I will say the dogs looked horrendous, but when they're fighting the zombies in the Spencer mansion and there's that one scene of Robbie and Mel in total darkness and the only time you can see is when he fires his gun, but he's running out of bullets slowly and slowly. So, you know, the flashing lights from his assault rifle are getting slower and slower. And then he puts his gun away because he runs out of ammo and he takes out his pistol. And the flashes of light become more and more spread apart because obviously it doesn't fire as fast. And then eventually he just has his knife and a lighter, which I thought was a nice touch because, you know, Chris has the lighter in the first game. So Robbie and Mel has the lighter in the movie. And there were just so many little details like that that people who played the games can pick out. And oh my God, this movie was so much fun.
Yeah, I don't know, like I don't know what people are expecting now.
It's better than the Mila Jovovich ones, and that's all we can ask for.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like it's really tough to nail a movie based on a video game. So that's always a tough
Oh, of
task.
course.
So I don't know like what people were really expecting this to be. Like I don't think anyone should have expected this to be like an Oscar-worthy film. It was just
by no means.
It was just like a fun time and had some fan service to people like you and I guess sort of like me, definitely Kyle, that love Resident Evil games and the storyline and kind of connecting them all into like our origin story-esque movie that really had not much to lose. It was just like a fun time. There were some CGI moments were definitely poor and not great, and would have been cool to see them use more practical effects. Something we both enjoy and talk about. How Hollywood. It'd be cool to see Hollywood kind of lean more on practical effects and steer away from just relying on CGI because that just creates way more opportunities for creativity and just a lot of things can be done. It just kind of looks, CGI has come a long way, but in a lot of ways, practical effects look more realistic. So,
I
but like I had fun with this movie. I did. It was enjoyable as hell.
I also think that the sound design for the zombies was incredible. The way that, you could hear them coming or the way you could hear them growl was great.
Yep.
And the fact that they basically redid almost shot for shot the first zombie you encounter in the Resident Evil game was incredible. Like when you're going up the hallway and the one is eating your buddy and he turns around.
Yeah.
They did that same turnaround zombie and it's just like, oh my God, that was so much fun. I am all for a second one, by the way. I'm all for a sequel with Ada Wong and Albert Wesker.
Yep.
Just incredible. Last one we got on this list is, of course, Spider-Man No Way Home, which again, we talked about in like a full review episode. So I'll link that as well. But quick thoughts. It was pretty good. It was pretty good.
Pretty good.
It was pretty good. It was pretty good. It was a solid 5 stars on my Letterboxd. It was pretty good.
Wow. It didn't make Andrew's 6-star list?
No. Only a select few movies make my 6-star list.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, the best part about this movie is it was just the accumulation of 20 years, plus of Spider-Man movies and Spider-Man content and references and tying in all the Spider-Man and a lot of the main villains, and just how great and how awesome it was to see Toby, Andrew, and Tom interact with one another. It was just fantastic, and definitely a movie I'm gonna see again. Comes on Disney Plus, and probably inevitably we get it on Blu-ray. Because it's just that good. It was, and they did it so well, and well, I love too. Something I didn't really mention in our other review of it was the fact that even though Toby and Andrew were in it, like they were in it for like the perfect amount of time, where they still were able to center the movie just around Tom Holland.
Yeah, like they didn't take up too much of the spotlight, but because they weren't in it for too long, they took up just enough.
Exactly, and I just love that, and it was really Tom just trying to, because he arguably half caused this along with Doctor Strange, like he's gonna fix it and remedy it, and he doesn't want to just send them all back, to get killed. Like, he literally wants to cure them and help them, because that's just, at the end of the day, who Spider-Man and Peter Parker, are. This a selfless, great, big-hearted character. And so it was just, I loved how they still framed it around Tom Holland. And my God, like you said, that suit at the end was fucking so great. It's like Tom's had the most suits compared to any other Spider-Man. Like, he's probably at 10 now, but that suit, my God, I hope he sticks with that.
Yeah. If I can make one recommendation for fans of Spider-Man to do before the next movie, if you have the means, play the Spider-Man video game for PlayStation.
Hell yeah.
Because this No Way Home, I feel like, took so much inspiration from the video game in terms of like the fight choreography and even the suit at the end. Really just like the last 2 minutes of the movie set up for future Marvel movies was almost, I feel like, 100% inspired from the video game, because the end of that movie is basically the beginning of the video game. And I mean, I know not everyone plays video games, not everyone has a PlayStation, but if you have the means, like, please play it, because it's so good. The story is incredible. And I mean, Tom Holland even said that when he was filming No Way Home, or when he was getting ready to film No Way Home, he blasted through the Spider-Man game. And like, I was watching, the Green Goblin fight the second time we saw it, because this is actually the only movie I went to go see twice, 2021. But when they're fighting in the apartment complex, there's choreography and there's fighting that Spider-Man does that is exactly from the video game. Like, that you can do on common street thugs, and it's just, that movie was so good.
It definitely took a lot of inspiration from that.
Yeah.
All the other Spider-Man movies too, but yeah, and it's like, of course now fans want more of Tobey and Andrew, which of course I want more too, but I hope we get that continuation, and I guess, and or conclusion of their stories. But even if we don't, I'd still be happy kind of how they were in this movie, and you kind of see where they've come, how far they've come. They both clearly matured different ways, and just how they kind of help Tom get over the loss and mourning of Aunt May, and picking him up, and kind of all three of them, like I said, is building off one another. It was just fantastic to see.
I'd rather see Amazing Spider-Man 3 with Andrew Garfield rather than Spider-Man 4 with Tobey Maguire.
If you had to choose one, yeah, me too.
Because I feel like there's just more story to tell with Andrew Garfield. But regardless, that'll be for our top movies of 2027.
Yeah, he definitely, as we said, stole a show.
Yeah.
Spider-Man. And
so to close this out, I think we can name our favorite movie. Before I name mine, I have some dishonorable mentions. Obviously, Malignant, and one that you and I did not see together, although I invited you to, was Space Jam: A New Legacy. Like, I'm not even going to talk about it.
Yeah.
Don't watch it.
No. I knew to avoid that movie.
Don't watch it. I saw it at a drive-in, thought it'd be fun. The drive-in was fun, the movie wasn't. Lola Bunny was fun, the movie wasn't. My honorable mentions, there's a lot here. Now, I'm not, okay, disclaimer here, I'm not saying that, like, I wouldn't go back and rewatch these honorable mentions, because I would in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So just, like, keep that in mind before I read them off. Okay, and in no particular order, honorable mentions: Last Night in Soho, Halloween Kills, No Way Home, Zack Snyder's Justice League, and the three, well, I guess we didn't see Justice League together, but the other three we didn't see together was Willy's Wonderland, Pig, and The Green Knight. All three of those, top-notch, like, so good, such good movies. Green Knight is like a fantasy-inspired A24 movie, and I love my A24 movies. Willy's Wonderland is basically like the game Five Nights at Freddy's, but with Nicolas Cage kicking the crap out of the animatronics, and I love Nicolas Cage. Pig is another Nicolas Cage movie that is just amazing. I mean, Nicolas Cage gives 1000% effort in his performance in that movie. It is just one of one of the finest acting performances I've ever seen. And I'm not even saying that because Nicolas Cage is one of my favorite actors. Like I genuinely believe that. My favorite movie of 2021, if you were to ask me right now, like the movie I would sit down and watch, is Resident Evil. And maybe that's a little biased because like I'm still playing through the games a little bit.
Probably.
But oh my God, I just adored that movie. And I'm not saying it's like the best movie of 2021 because it's not. Conventionally, like it's not a great movie, but I had so much fun watching it.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it would definitely be No Way Home.
And that's very understandable.
So it was everything I hoped it would be and more, really. And my God, I just loved it.
Yeah. Hopefully 2022 will be a good year for movies.
Pretty good. 2021, was kind of unexpectedly a pretty solid year for movies.
So far in 2022, I think I've only seen two movies, two new movies. Those being Scream and The Tragedy of Macbeth. The Tragedy of Macbeth, absolutely phenomenal.
Save it for 2022.
Yeah, if that stays in my top movies of 2022, we'll see next year. It's looking like there's going to be a decent year for movies. A couple of good ones coming out. The Batman in a few months, which I'm stoked for. Rumors going around it's going to be 3 hours.
Oh.
So I'm there. I'm all for it.
No drinks or waters for this guy. But yeah, like I said, pretty solid year for movies, and I've seen two movies too already. West Side Story that I really liked. I know not your forte at all. And then I also saw Scream. That pretty good.
Scream was good.
Pretty great. Pretty two good movies to start off the year, and a lot of good movies I'm looking forward to seeing. So hopefully similar like 2021 where there wasn't a lot of disappointments.
Yeah, I'll be posting a full review for Scream on my letterbox in the next couple of days too. Yeah, so you can check that out. But it was cool.
Not as in depth.
Good year for movies. I enjoyed it. I'll still go to the movies. Catch us in the next one.
Yeah, stay tuned. We still we're in the works of doing our top 5 movies. So
yeah, we're taking our notes.
That'll be coming down the pipeline soon, and then a couple other ones we're working on. So definitely stay tuned. Check out Andrew's Rob Zombie video. That was fantastic. If you haven't seen it,
thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Very surprising video, I must say.
It was filmed in my basement.
Yeah, but very, very great. If you're a fan of Rob Zombie or care about Andrew's opinion on Rob Zombie, definitely watch it because it's very good.
Even if you don't care about my opinion of Rob Zombie,
still watch it.
Check it out. It's kind of cool.
As we always tell your friends,
grandma,
mailman,
dog walker, alien invader, guy standing in your laundry.
Yeah. But yeah, we will see you guys on the flippity flip.
Yeah, and Aiden, make sure you catch the next episode.
Aiden, watching you.